This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome into the set of Football Night in America. We are wrapping up the 13th Sunday of the 2023 NFL season. I've got Matthew Berry, Devin McCourty, Jason Garrett. Gentlemen, let's get to it. The game of the season so far didn't play out that way because the 49ers showed something we've been saying all year. When they're healthy, they're the best team in football, Coach.
Yeah, they certainly showed it today. They scored touchdowns on 6 straight drives. And, you know, we've been talking about it. They have so many different weapons. They have so many mismatched players at receiver, at tight end, at running back. The quarterback has been fantastic. And Kyle Shanahan, as we all know, uses them all so well. Their motions, their formations, they create these mismatches. And they got after the Eagles today. And there's a concern in Philadelphia now. They're giving up a lot of points on defense here the last few weeks.
And what I loved about the 49ers today was it didn't start off the way they wanted. This is a game they were looking forward to ever since they lost in the NFC Championship game last year. They could have came out and said, oh, no, this isn't really how we planned. Philadelphia came and kind of smacked us in the mouth. But they said it. Kyle Shanahan said after the game, there was no panic. It might have seemed like panic, but everybody was calm on the sideline, knew what they wanted to get to, and we've been saying it for weeks, probably since the beginning of the season. When they're healthy, they're the most complete team in the NFL, and they went to Philadelphia and really dismantled this Eagles team. It'll be interesting to see how they finish the season.
Look, the Philadelphia Eagles have been sort of playing with house money for a little bit, right? Easily could have lost to the Cowboys, right? Dak steps out of bounds at the 1-yard line. The Schoonmaker touchdown could have gone either way. Gabe Davis runs the right route. That's a touchdown. MVS doesn't drop the ball against Kansas City. Like, there's a couple of games there that had a play gone one way or the other. The Eagles would have had a lot more losses than they did. And so here comes the complete team, Coach, as you mentioned as well. And they come in there and, like, they just dominated from start to finish. The defense has been a concern here. And the other thing that I think gets overshadowed is that so much gets focused on all the weapons that the Niners have and what great coaching Shanahan has. But how about Brock Purdy, who I think legitimately needs to be in the MVP conversation? He just went head-to-head on the road with Jalen Hurts and beat him. And by the way, and beat him soundly. I mean, not that Hurts played bad, but Brock Purdy was fantastic. And since the Week 8 bye, Brock Purdy's had 4 games. He's had over 1,100 passing yards. He's got 11 touchdowns, just 1 interception. He is running that offense perfectly. Honestly, he's running that Shanahan offense better than I've seen anyone run it since Matt Ryan in Atlanta, who also, by the way, was in the MVP conversation that year, right?
Some people think it's a pejorative to refer to Purdy as a system quarterback, but he's running the Shanahan system to perfection. I'm curious about this, and I want to get coach's perspective and player's perspective. What do you say to the Eagles? If you're a member of the defensive players and if you're the head coach, what do you say to reset going to Dallas next week?
They're just a really good team, and you have to rely on being a good team. You know, they've played 12 games. They've won 10 of them. And so we can talk about, hey, you know, this happened in this game. Maybe they should have lost this game. It's hard to win games in the NFL, and they're finding ways to win those close games. And I think that's a good thing for a team. They're mentally tough. When they get in those situations, they figure it out. They started off well in this game, and then they played really poorly. Offensively, they didn't play well. They looked out of sync. Defensively, it was a disaster. And I get concerned about their defense because there's a lot of good players over there, and they're giving up a lot of points. The way they need to reset is, hey, look at it. Look at the body of work. We're a good football team. Watch it, learn from it, put it behind you. Cowboys in Arlington, it's going to be a heck of a challenge.
And what I've always loved when you're a player is just getting back to your routine. This team went and they played Buffalo overtime, long game. Then you have to come and play the San Francisco 49ers. Let's just get back to a regular routine. Let's come in here Wednesday for our first day of practice. Let's just do what we do. Let's not stay focused. Let's get rid of that game. It's over. We can't change it. But as a defensive player, I would come in, and as a leader on that team, I would say, guys, this is what it is. If we step up and play well and we go out there and play good defense, we know we have on the other side of the ball. It's on us. And I think you have to have that approach going forward. But it's taking the small things, period after period, starting a period off the right way, finishing a period, having that mentality, and then you go into Dallas, rival, NFC East. You got to go play well, and I think they're going to need that game to get them back in the right path.
One other concern for me, Mike, just real quickly, I was just going to say, is the fact that their offense feels small, if that makes any sense. Now, Dallas Goedert wasn't playing in this game. DeAndre Swift left this game with an injury, but still, the fact of the matter, it's A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. They don't have much else beyond those two guys. Obviously, and you saw today when Swift and Goddard were out, they need to find more options in that offense because it feels like they get to a little bit like, okay, Jalen, save us.
Maybe.
And oftentimes he can, but like
Maybe Ertz is coming back.
I mean, maybe, right? That's something.
you would know that better than us.
Mike would know that better than us, but it feels like they need another piece to this offense. It's becoming a little bit too one-dimensional.
The other part of this thing now is they're going to Dallas, and Dallas has won a lot of games in a row down there. We've talked about it. I mean, they're as good a home team as there is in the NFL, and so you get this thing where they're both 10-3, and there's a fight to the finish to have home field advantage in the playoffs. That's a dangerous proposition for teams playing against Dallas.
Shades of 1993 with the Giants and the Cowboys battling it out for the top seed or the top wild card. That's what the Eagles and the Cowboys may be doing. The Lions trying to get to the same elite level as the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the 49ers. They got up to a big lead over the Saints today and then did what the Chiefs tend to do, played with their food a little bit. What do you see from the Lions right now getting back on the winning track after that embarrassment on Thanksgiving?
You know, a couple things. I think their defense is a little leaky. I think we've seen that throughout the year, and we saw that again in the second part of the game against New Orleans. But what I love what they did offensively is they got back to being a balanced team. When they throw the ball too much and put so much pressure on the pass protection and on Goff, that's when the turnovers happen. When they're balanced and they're handing it to two different guys, they're getting the receivers involved, they're getting the ball out of his hand, all of a sudden the play-action game comes alive, and Goff really looks like he's in rhythm. And they were able to do that against New Orleans throughout the game. I like them getting back to that style of offensive football.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys for them defensively, they have to create those turnovers. Sometimes you as a defense, hey, if a team gets a 12-play drive, we're probably not going to get a stop. We're going to try to count on us playing good red zone defense, but we might not match up well with teams. We got to put the X factor on creating the turnovers, getting the ball back to our offense. And Branch got an interception today. That was a key part. Carr had a snap hit by a guard. They're going to need those plays as a defense, I think, to go out there and win games. They can't just say, hey, we're going to line up and be a better defense than you are going to be on offense. We've seen that hasn't worked for them. But if they can create those turnover opportunities, be towards the top going down the stretch, they'll give themselves a chance to be very competitive with those top teams in the NFC. But I think no matter what, I think there's a step above when we talk about Philadelphia, Dallas, and San Francisco.
What's been exciting, though, about the Lions is their offense continues to emerge. First off, when Jared Goff has time, he's as good as any quarterback in the NFL. When he has a clean pocket, and that line has done a really good job. New Orleans did not get after him today, and so on the road, he was able to piece them apart. Again, you talk about that running game with Gibbs and Montgomery, and now look at that offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we know, he's a star. Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, he's coming on. Big game in this one as well. Laporta, 140 yards. He's now had 4 receptions in every game this year except for 2. And how about Jamison Williams? Like the star from Alabama, we've been waiting for Jamison Williams. He has the big play, the touchdown, using his speed along with Laporta in the middle of the field. Amon-Ra, they've got a run game. Goff is playing well. Their defense doesn't need to be great. It just needs to be good enough because this offense is playing at such a high level.
And look, you look at their upcoming schedule. They go to Chicago. Well, Chicago gave them everything they could handle a couple of weeks ago indoors. They got the Broncos coming to town. They play the Vikings twice. They get to go to Dallas, which is not going to be an easy thing. We'll learn a little more about the Lions before they have to see what they can do in the postseason. All right.
One thing I'll say, Mike, though, just about that, look at their schedule. That game at Chicago, that's the only game that the Lions play outdoors the rest of the way. They're either at home in Detroit or they play in a dome like they did today. They play at Dallas. That's a late December game. We figure Jerry will close the roof. Maybe not. Who knows? But it should be, in theory, he should be indoors for almost every game except the game at Chicago, and that is where Goff plays his best.
The Pittsburgh Steelers love playing those outdoor home games, except when they just don't look like the Steelers we've come to know. I mean, it was set up for them to get their 8th win. Cardinals go in. The storm delays didn't help matters. Losing Kenny Pickett didn't help matters. But this Pittsburgh team, Devin, I can't figure them out. Every time I feel like I'm ready to say punch their ticket to the postseason, they do something that makes me say maybe not.
And it's in a division where we kind of saw like the path was wide open for them. Joe Burrow gets hurt. Deshaun Watson gets hurt in Cleveland. So now you look and you say, all right, we have Baltimore, and then Pittsburgh should slide up. But, earlier this week on PFT, I told you that this Arizona Cardinals team.
He called it.
They were my underdog team. I thought this Cardinals team, they've been very competitive. They seem like they have something brewing down in Arizona. Kyler Murray has come back. He's had good games. They just kept falling a little short, it felt like. Last week, not so much. They didn't play that well. But then today, I thought against a team like Pittsburgh that struggles sometimes offensively, if Arizona could just get a few drives going, and I thought McBride stepped up at tight end, having some big catches, they were able to go in there and beat Pittsburgh, which is not an easy thing to do.
It's not easy at all. I was really shocked by the result of it, but more so just how the game went. I mean, Arizona controlled the game. And Pittsburgh seemed to be doing better after the coaching change on offense. They seem more balanced. They're attacking different ways. They're running it better. You know, not a whole lot from their offense today. Arizona's played pretty good defense at different times this year. So they lose the quarterback. And as Mike Tomlin said, it was a JV performance. So for a team that's got so much at stake, to have a game like that, really surprising.
Bad time to have a JV performance.
Yeah.
This is as bad a loss as there was in the NFL. I mean, the Steelers, they've been, again, playing with house money. Like, they've gotten some breaks with the schedule, but they're far ahead of where they should be based on sort of their play, right? And this is a home game against Arizona, and they should have won. And we thought, oh, last week, okay, they fired Matt Canada. Well, they had over 400 yards for the first time in forever. Suddenly, the offense is back on track. Well, it wasn't. Again, the Arizona's playing above its head, no doubt. They're plucky, you know, whatever adjective you want to, but it's still a bad defense. Like, it's a defense that, you know, Kyron Williams ran for almost 200 yards last week. Like, it's a defense that has struggled throughout the year, and for the third straight game, the Steelers scored under 16 points. Like, in a game, like, you're an NFL team. Like, you can't do that, and now they've just lost their starting quarterback for a few weeks as well. Like, I think Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in the NFL, but he's going to really have to dig deep to get these Steelers back on track, because this was a bad performance to lose to the Cardinals at home.
Yeah, we confirmed a little while ago the report from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette that Kenny Pickett's going to have an ankle procedure on Monday and miss 2 to 4 weeks, which is not going to make it any easier for the Steelers. And think about the Steelers. Once they're down 2 scores, it's basically over. Yep. Once it was 17-3, they're not getting those 2 touchdowns to tie that game.
Well, unless T.J. Watt takes one up and runs it back, which they do that too, but they're probably not going to get it from their offense.
And now they got the short week with the Patriots coming to town on Thursday night. Bailey Zappi versus Mitch Trubisky.
Do we get a touchdown in that game?
I don't know.
It's so interesting. I can't imagine what the over-under on that one is. It's
single-digit over-under for the first time ever.
Whatever the number is, take the under. That's the one thing that the scheduling gods are helping with the Steelers is they get the Patriots who, we think the Steelers struggle offensively. Watch the Patriots.
All right, the Colts are surprisingly competitive without Anthony Richardson. Win 4 games in a row. Tennessee, it felt like this was the day that the balloon was going to get popped. But, Coach, they're resilient. They're tough. Shane Steichen getting it done. Gardner Minshew getting it done. Jonathan Taylor's out, no problem. 4 wins in a row, and the Colts just keep it going with another chaotic victory.
Yeah, let's start with the head coach. Shane Steichen has done a fantastic job. Obviously, the environment he created in Philadelphia was really favorable for the quarterback and for their entire offense. And he's gone in there. You said it. They take the quarterback with the 4th pick of the draft, and they lose him right away. And now here we go. Gardner Minshew, Mr. Moxie comes into the ball game, and they're getting it done. They have a lot of tough, gritty wins. They stay in these games. They find different ways to move the ball and score points. Their defense is hanging in there. For them to be 7-5 right now and in the mix of this whole thing is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting on some of these teams not having a plan at the backup quarterback position. Some of these guys we've seen take the field for teams. We got to give credit to Indy. Yes, they draft Richardson, but they bring in Minshew and they say, hey, we have a guy no matter what that we believe in that can go win football games, and he's done that. Today, you mentioned it, no Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss really doesn't have the game rushing that they've gotten from their running backs. And Minshew says, no problem. I'll get the ball to Alec Pierce, who we haven't gotten it to often, get the ball down the field. Then I'll find one of my favorite targets, Pittman, and we'll go out there and win the game. And I thought the really deciding factor in this game was their special teams unit. They stepped up, blocking a punt and whatever the other play you wanted to call, fumble, block, punt. If you don't have those 2 plays, Tennessee probably wins this game going ahead, 2 scores maybe. But, I think for this Colts team, that has to feel really good coming off of last season, some of the moves they made, and now having a chance to be in the postseason.
You hear people talk about Coach of the Year candidates, and you know who doesn't get mentioned a lot is Shane Steichen, but he has done an unbelievable job, especially you mentioned Richardson, 4 games without Jonathan Taylor, then he loses them again, keeping this team together, keeping them competitive, and it's one of the reasons why they wanted Minshew, obviously, because Minshew had played with him in Philadelphia, and it's been seamless. You mentioned Michael Pittman. That's another guy that I don't know if it's because he plays in Indianapolis, a small market, maybe because he doesn't have a unique name. It's just Michael Pittman, right? But it's this 5th straight game with at least 8 receptions. He is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He is completely unsung. And you're right, when Minshew is in trouble, where's he looking? He's looking to number 11. They've gotten some nice production from Josh Downs as well, their rookie slot receiver. And so credit to the Colts that keep finding ways to win, and a team that I think everyone sort of wrote off at the beginning of the year. And then when they started Anthony Richardson, like, oh, well, you guys are definitely not even trying because you're starting a rookie. And then Richardson's better than you're thinking, like, okay, well, now you lost Richardson, now you're done. And they're in if the playoffs started today, the Colts are in.
Yep.
So congrats to Shane Steichen and the entire team.
It was a great game. It was an exciting game. It was one of those games that deserved to be seen by more people. Because, not a game that was given a high platform, but the Colts deliver and they keep on moving. And Gardner Minshew is setting himself up for an opportunity to go somewhere next year and be the starter, not just the stopgap until we draft somebody in round 1 starter, but the guy that a team can say, this is our guy. And when you look around at the quarterbacks in the NFL, he fits right in. He gets a shot next year, shouldn't he?
I mean, and we said it. You look around the league, like we're watching some of these games, the Jets and Atlanta game, and we're watching Ritter, Boyle / Simeon go head-to-head, and you watch that game and like, Minshew's playing way better than some of these other guys. So I definitely think he gives himself a chance to be a guy next year. Maybe still a holdover to a team, because I think once you kind of get in that ballpark, it's hard to get out of it. But I think he could be a guy that on a good team, they can go win some football games.
There's no doubt he's going to play for a long time, and I think he'll be one of those guys, this borderline starter type guy, hold the fort guy, if you will, until someone drafts the guy that they think is the quarterback of the future. But he's playing a lot better than a lot of quarterbacks in this league.
And I think what's most important about Minshew is, while he may not be the most physically skilled quarterback in the NFL, what's clear is that he's gutty as hell, and his teammates love him and believe in him. And that goes a long way. I mean, we're in a league in which Joe Flacco 3 weeks ago was on his couch and he started an NFL game today. I mean, that's
looked pretty good.
By the way, he did.
Yeah.
By the way, I bet you he's the starter for Cleveland the rest of the way.
Yes,
I mean, he should be. But that's the point. That's the state of the quarterback in the NFL right now, is when 40-year-old Joe Flacco is a better option for a team that's got real playoff opportunity. So. Yeah, Minshew, I think, certainly has made himself some money to this year.
35-year-old Russell Wilson, as of this week, had taken the Broncos to 5 straight wins. They go down to Houston against a Texans team fueled by rookie C.J. Stroud. Something had to give. Somebody is going to strengthen their playoff shot, and somebody isn't. And the Texans continue. They shake off that loss to the Jaguars, and they take care of the Broncos. Made it a little closer than it needed to be, but the Texans are looking pretty good, Coach.
Yeah, for me, 2 of the best stories in the NFL. Let's start with the Broncos. We sat here at this table, and we're chuckling. We're laughing. Hey, Miami put 70 points on the Denver Broncos, and for that organization to regroup and make the decisions they made. They moved on from some guys. They made some adjustments on defense. They played a different style of football offensively to help their defense. They're running it. They're keeping Russ out of harm's way. For them to win 5 straight, Sean Payton's done a heck of a job there. Now you go down to Houston and think about that team. D'Amico Ryans, his first opportunity as a head coach. They got a lot of young players. If you look at that team, they have cornerstone players. The quarterback, been fantastic. Will Anderson, the defensive end, fantastic. They got other guys, Stingley. They got all these guys, these young players, but still it was like, are you kidding me? They're going to be in the mix in the middle of the year. And for them week in and week out to compete in these games and then to win these games against a team that was hot and make the plays at the end of the game they needed to do, really impressive.
I'm with you, Coach. And I love that these young players, I've said it on here before, they're leaders. They're the guys that this team is counting on as captains with Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud. And I think to lose a guy like Tank Dell and what he's meant for this ball club and to still continue to persevere, continue to make the plays. We used to always talk about in New England, the playoffs would start and everybody would talk about experience. And Bill would get up there and he would be like, no one cares about experience. It doesn't matter. It's about who's playing good football at this time of the year. And you look at this Houston Texans team, they have guys who came from good programs in college. They believe they're winners. They have a winning mentality. It doesn't matter how much NFL experience they have in December or in the playoffs. They look like they're destined and ready to go play, and they'll go play anybody. And they've showed that when they played Pittsburgh early in the season, and it was like, oh, Pittsburgh's defense versus a rookie quarterback. They showed up. They come in today, and they play a Denver team that's hot, playing good ball. It's Sean Payton. It's Russell Wilson. And they say, hey, we're not going to blink. We're going to come out here and play you for 60 minutes and continue to give ourselves a chance to win at the end.
Yeah, that'll be the big question, though, for this Texans team moving forward is how they deal with these injuries. And you mentioned C.J. Stroud, who's as hot as any quarterback in the NFL, but he gets banged up in this game. After the game, he says, quote, "I'm hurt. I'm not going to sugarcoat it." So how well he bounces back, and then obviously losing Tank Dell, the rookie sensation, unbelievably bad injury for him, for Tank Dell. He's been a big part of the production there. This Houston passing game, in this game, Nico Collins and Brevin Jordan, who was playing because Dalton Schultz was out, they're the only two pass catchers that caught more than one pass in this ball. Now, Nico Collins had himself a day, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the fact is that if this team is going to go forward, they need to find some way to replace Tank Dell.
It really is an amazing story, though, the belief that they have. Before the season, most people would have said the Texans are the one team in the AFC that has no chance to make it to the playoffs. And when I spoke to Derek Stingley Jr. after the game, he was the 3rd overall pick in last year's draft, I said, what was the moment this year that you realized you would be playoff contenders? He said it was the moment that we drafted C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson back-to-back. That was when I knew. And he throws on top of it DeMeco Ryans, the winning culture that he brings from San Francisco, and look at what it's done for the Texans. It really has been amazing. All right, that's enough reality for now. Time for a little fantasy with Matthew Berry.
A couple of big headlines, and so let's start with Nico Collins. Without Tank Dell there in that shootout win against the Denver Broncos, 9 receptions, 191 yards, a touchdown, 34.1 fantasy points. He is now the 9th best wide receiver in fantasy football in the season. Again, so not only the Texans impressing on the real NFL field, but they're also filled with fantasy stars, which at the beginning of the season, there's like, maybe there's a couple of sleepers there, but people didn't expect them to have the production they are having right now. So 3rd straight game with 7 or more receptions. He's now averaging over 90 receiving yards. And I think he's, without Tank Dell, given the amount of volume that he's going to get, and given how good C.J. Stroud is, look, he's a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. He's a top 12 guy.
He's the real deal.
He is the real deal.
Watching him.
Nico Collins can absolutely play. So that's one of the big storylines from fantasy today. One of the other storylines is, it's unfortunate, one of my favorite players in the NFL is Austin Eckler. He's been so good for so long, but this was a struggle, right? I mean, he had 27 total yards on 16 touches. Under 5 fantasy points. He's now had 70 or fewer total yards in 4 of the past 5 games. He's running back 24. This is a guy that went in the first round of every fantasy draft this season. He's averaging under 5 yards per touch so far this year. And I don't know if he's hiding an injury. He got banged up early in the season.
It looks like it.
He's trying to play through him. Yeah, I just don't know what it is. And, they obviously lost Mike Williams as well, so they're down playmakers. Quentin Johnson hasn't developed the way they'd hoped so far. So it's really just Eckler and Keenan Allen there for the Chargers. But it's tough. A guy that was your first-round pick that you're expecting to play, and he just hasn't been able to produce fantasy points.
I just wonder how much with Eckler it's his frustration with his contract, wanted to get traded, couldn't find anybody who would give him what he's looking for, and knowing that he's getting closer and closer to the open market, how much that gets into your head when you know you're going out there every single game and you're risking injury.
Because that's all you think about. Like, he knows I'm at a position where a lot of teams don't value it. I'm playing a little bit hurt. How banged up he is, we don't know. But he knows if he gets a big injury, that's it. Like, there's no get healthy next year at his age, how long he's had good production. That's kind of it. And I think that's always hard for players, even though we can compartmentalize and go out there and play. It's just not an easy thing to do.
I think the other real factor is the injuries at receiver have really compromised. It's Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. And so you go to New England, you know this better than anybody.
Those guys aren't going to have a good game.
Yeah, all Bill Belichick's talking about, 13 ain't going to catch it, and we're going to keep 30 under wraps, right? That's all they're doing on every snap. Let the other guys beat you. So to go up there, they tried to give him a number of different touches, but they were not going to allow him to get going.
It was a very tough game. I believe now, Mike, it is time for our DraftKings crowning moment.
I believe it is.
All right, so here in my hand, I have actual bets from actual bettors on DraftKings as well. Somebody out there put $200 down on the Dolphins to defeat the Commanders by 25 to 30 points, somewhere in that range, and they won $2,200. It was at plus 1,000 is what that went off at. So congratulations to them. Anytime you bet against the Commanders, you usually win. $100, somebody out there, hey, look, it's true. They put Tyreek Hill in single coverage. Like,
a lot of scars. A lot of scars.
You can hear them. They're building up.
There's something about that chair. There's something about that chair. It carries all the scars.
So much anxiety.
You guys know it's been a long year in Washington. This was interesting as well. I'm surprised it was actually this. The odds were this, but somebody at plus 6,000 put $100 down on there to be no touchdowns scored in the Chargers-Patriots game that obviously cashed 6-0, just 2 field goals by Cameron Dicker. So that better won $6,100 from DraftKings today. And then somebody else put $50 on Jimmy Graham anytime touchdown. Jimmy Graham out of the, off the bench into the end zone. That went off at $2,200, so they went over $1,100. I am here to remind you guys to don't forget on DraftKings Sportsbook this season, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly, plus all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every single day. Here's what you do. Download the app and use the promo code SNF when you sign up. It's DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
I feel the need for Speed Round, Hot Take Time Machine Edition. Everything we say now can and will be used against us in the future. Which team is the best set up for future success? Jets, Patriots, Panthers, Commanders?
I think the Jets are. They have a lot of cornerstone players on that defense. They obviously have to get the quarterback situation right. They might with one of the great ones that ever played.
Barry, you're going to like this. I'm going Commanders. I think Sam Howell, I think they found a guy in Sam Howell. I think they get the right guy in there to lead this team. They have some good receivers. They got to kind of rebuild the defense a little bit through the draft. But I think having a quarterback, a young quarterback, gives you a good chance to be good in the future.
Listen, you know where I'm going. Obviously, I think it is the Commanders. I think there will probably be some more changes happening in that front office and leadership after the season. But they have a quarterback. They have some nice talent on offense. Bieniemy's done a really good job with that offense this year. They have some pieces on defense. They're really good. They're in really good cap space. They're going to have a low draft pick this year as well. So yeah, give me the Commanders. I'm nervous about the Jets. It's all based on a 40-year-old Achilles heel for the Jets.
I'm telling Robert Kraft you didn't pick the Patriots. I'll take the Patriots.
They got some work to do.
I mean, ownership means something in the NFL, and that's one of the best ownership groups. These other ones, I'll just say the Patriots are among the best. I won't comment on the others for now, especially not the Carolina Panthers.
All because of RKK.
Well, that's right. It has a lot to do with it. It really does. All right.
Give Josh Harris a chance.
Next topic. Tirico Hill is the NFL MVP this season, and if not, who, Coach?
To me, it's three quarterbacks in the NFC. It's Dak Prescott, it's Jalen Hurts, or it's Brock Purdy, depending on how this season runs out. And those are the best, most important players on the best teams. And if San Francisco makes a great run at this thing, it should be Brock Purdy. And the same thing with Hurts and Dak.
They won't listen to me, but Tirico Hill is the MVP of the NFL. Consistently, week in and week out, he has showed up. It's easy to play against a guy like this, right? He's not a quarterback. Just double team him. Put two guys on him, take him away. Nobody has done that for some weird reason, and if they have tried to take him away, he's showed different ways to go score. They find ways to get him the ball. It's been so impressive. He's going to finish this year with over 2,000 yards, and he should be the NFL MVP. I don't know.
I thought we couldn't take Tyreek. Wasn't that the question?
No, it's is he the MVP, and if not, who?
Oh, okay, got it.
So you could take Tyreek. You
Yeah.
could change.
I think he's in the mix.
All right.
I think he's Offensive Player of the Year is what I think. I think when you look at kind of the awards market, the MVP is almost usually a quarterback, and I agree with Coach. I think it's Dak Prescott, it's Jalen Hurts, or it's Brock Purdy. It's one of those three guys, you know. But I do think Offensive Player of the Year is Tirico Hill. It's right now I feel like him and CeeDee Lamb are sort of right there, but Tyreek is just so special. I think you need to reward this Dolphins offense some way, somehow. It's not going to be Tua for MVP. I think Tirico Hill is your Offensive Player of the Year, but I don't think he's MVP. I think it's one of those three quarterbacks.
Obviously, it's easier to know when we see the playoff tree and you see who the one seeds are because it means so much to be the best player on one of the top seeds. But Tirico Hill has the chance to make history, and I think he is the most valuable player on the Dolphins. You get that record, single-season receiving yardage record. You have a team that's one of the top seeds in the AFC. I think it happens, and there's never been a receiver to win NFL MVP. Two defensive players have won. You know who they are.
Lawrence Taylor.
And?
Say Reggie White.
Alan Page, 1971. And a kicker.
Vikings, I should
And
Vikings,
a kicker. A kicker has won it. Do you know when a kicker won it? 1982. You know who it was? Straight on, baby.
I
one
do.
of the last
Mark
ones.
Mosley.
Yep. Kicker was NFL MVP.
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah. Boy, that's depressing. All right. Which NFC South team has the best chance at a wild card upset? I'll start with Matthew.
I'll say the Falcons. I mean, they're in first place. Like, the Falcons run the ball well, and they play good defense. And so, in the game, if they're in the playoffs, the game will be in Atlanta. So, you know, like, a couple of turnovers here or there. Like, they run the ball well. Bijan Robinson is truly special. Like, they're going to have to limit the turnovers and sort of hide Desmond Ridder. But best chance at an upset? Give me the Falcons at home with a good defense and good run game.
I'm going to go against the grain. None of them. None of them have
I was trying to answer the question that was asked. I didn't know that was an option.
None of them have
They
a
all
chance.
have an equal chance of 0.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
I'm not. You said we're going to get held accountable for our hot take. I'm not going to be held saying that I think one of these NFC South teams will win a wild card. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Dev. If we have to take one,
which one has the best chance? Not that they will. Which one has
Yeah.
the best chance?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Dallas or Philly is going to go in there and maul them, I think. But go ahead. Yes.
I'm going to say Tampa. And the only reason I'm going to say Tampa, the quarterback potentially could get hot, and they got that big, tall receiver who's hard to guard. And, you see him, every week, they throw the ball up and he makes these big plays. So he's capable of doing it. And I think they have enough pieces on defense to potentially slow somebody down. But it's going to be a tough task.
I'll throw the Saints into the mix just because of that dome, the advantage they have. It would be a great bookend to the Beastquake game when they had the great record and had to go play in Seattle and lost the game. It would be great to bring in the Cowboys or the Eagles and find a way to upset them. But even then, I think I'm with you. None of them have a chance. All right, which NFC wildcard team, non-NFC East, has the best chance at a successful postseason run? Wildcard team not from the NFC East.
I'm going to go with the Rams. I think the Rams are coming along. I think the thing that I always like to talk about once you get in the playoffs, the quarterback. And they have Matt Stafford. They have a guy who's clutch. He has weapons out there. I think if they can get rolling, Aaron Donald can always be dominant. He can always be that guy. But I believe Matt Stafford can get those guys rolling down this stretch and be a dangerous team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The quarterback gives them a chance. Cooper Kupp getting healthy. Nakua, they have some weapons where they can move the ball. The runners running the ball much better, and then they have 99 on the other side. So, they have some veteran players who have been there that can be disruptive, and they could get hot. So I think they have a decent chance.
You know what? I buy all of that, but just to say somebody different, how about the Green Bay Packers, who, were really impressive against the Chiefs on Sunday night? And Jordan Love is playing really well. They have a solid defense. They'll get Alexander back as well. They'll get Aaron Jones back. Their receivers are finally healthy and coming together. And so, if they can get into the playoffs, I think the Packers potentially, they've shown some toughness.
And just in the interest of variety, I'm not ready to give up on the Seahawks. I was impressed with how they held their own against the Cowboys on Thursday night. They got a tough schedule, but they got 3 games they can win down the stretch, and maybe they could sneak in and make some noise with that coaching experience, Geno Smith, the defense, et cetera. All right, last one, and this is a topic conducive to a quick discussion. We didn't talk about it at all in the viewing room today, so it's all brand new. Did the College Football Playoff Selection Committee get it right, Coach?
I think they had a really hard job. You can make a lot of different arguments a lot of different ways. But ultimately, for me, they did not get it right. I think Florida State winning 13 games, winning the ACC, they should be in it. They should be one of the top 4 teams in the country. And you can make a lot of arguments. The thing that bothers me, though, is they say best team or most deserving. Well, clearly, to me, it's most deserving. Who wins on the field? Now, you can talk about opponents and all that kind of stuff. What one-loss team had lost to the best opponent, all that kind of stuff. The thing that bothers me, though, is when they blend them. When they say it's best team, but then they say Ohio State can't be in it. They lost to Michigan. They weren't even if we're saying best team, they lost to the number 1 team in the country, right? So let's go best team. I don't think you'd pick those 4. And if you go most deserving, which I think they need to do, they'd pick a different 4.
Yeah, the verbiage makes all this stuff hard, but I think ultimately they got it right with these teams. You just said it, Jason. Most deserving, best team, when you win, when you lose, like all of that stuff that they throw out there. I just think they have to come together. I don't know what criteria you have to pick to make this decision right, but I think it ultimately turns into who they think the best 4 teams are at the end of the season. That's what it feels like. They kind of come up with these conclusions. They throw in the conference championship games and all of that. But I think last night, as we were looking at all of this stuff, the whole day played out, kind of a lot of people turned into, all right, well, Florida State's quarterback's not out there. Let's put Bama in because they just won the SEC championship, and let's go play. And I thought they got it right.
Listen, I'm very happy. My son goes to Alabama, so I was rooting for Alabama, Roll Tide. I'm thrilled they made it in. But no, I don't think they got it right. I agree with Coach Garrett. It's an impossible situation. There's 6 teams, 7, honestly, that could make a claim I should be there, which is why so excited for next year's playoff. But the fact is you're right. If you're just saying, hey, forget records, anything like that, just who are the 4 best teams in college football right now? That's not I'm like Ohio State would be in there. I think Georgia would be in there, right? And you can talk about Alabama versus Texas, but I mean, it's 4 of those 5. And then if you're saying who's the most deserving, I mean, like, I don't understand how Florida State was 4th in the country. They won their bowl game, and then they get knocked down. And the weird part is they get knocked down to 5. So if you're moving a team with a loss ahead of undefeated Florida State, well, why is Georgia 6? Georgia has 1 loss this year. It's by 3 points on a neutral field to Alabama. Like, their 1 loss it's a better loss than some of the other 1-loss teams. So I agree with Coach. It's an impossible situation. And as a fan, I'm thrilled. Roll Tide. But if you're asking me, did they get it right? I don't think they did.
If you're saying best team, Georgia's not one of the best teams. They've won 29 in a row.
Exactly.
And they lost to Alabama by 3. They're not one of the top 4 teams? I mean,
of course they are.
So we argue it over here, then we argue it over here. So in the end, let's
position.
decide what happened on the field. And Florida State not getting in it, it's bad ball.
Since West Virginia wasn't involved in it, they can all go to hell, as far as I'm concerned.
But they have a shot.
I had to pull up your Wikipedia page and make sure you went to Princeton, not Florida State. I mean, holy crap, all day long it was Florida State this and Florida State that. But if you go undefeated in a major conference, you kind of think that you're getting a ticket.
Unless you lose your starting quarterback, they said.
But that shouldn't matter. You still won all your games.
It enhances their candidacy.
It's a team.
They won without their starting quarterback.
I just want to see the best games in the playoffs.
Yep. It's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business, and they want the best games in the playoffs.
And listen, Michigan, Alabama, that's going to be a great game. Washington, Texas, that's going to be a great game. And whatever the results of those 2 games are, the college football playoff, that's going to be awesome.
Viewership.
It's going to be unbelievable. It's really exciting. And by the way, Georgia, Florida State will have a chance to make its case against Georgia. That's going to be a tough task.
All right, cue the music.
Give me the dogs.
Week 13 is over. Thanks, as always, for some of your time. We'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.